Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Verified Investing Live. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist and Pro Trader here at InTheMoneyStocks.com. Into the charts we go tonight, folks. Really interesting price action. The S&P futures have just opened. Right now, they're basically flat. So this is very interesting. I mean, considering we closed at the lows on Friday, it potentially sets up for a potential nasty day tomorrow. You always worry about those crashes that occur on Mondays. But right now, Dow futures up 47 points. S&P futures are flat. Granted, they literally opened 1 minute ago, so we don't know yet where they're ultimately headed. But certainly amazing to watch the price action last week, folks. Crypto over the weekend had a nasty crash, really down 20% from Friday into Saturday. Remarkable collapse there. I said it over the weekend. I'll say it again to you guys. The worst thing for cryptocurrency was the stock market closing on Fridays at the lows, because basically you have investors who really, they can't sell stocks because the markets are closed. So the fear enables them and pushes them to sell whatever they have, which is really cryptocurrency, the only ability for them to get out of anything. Again, crypto, and it certainly did sell. Now it's bounced back a little bit, but again, 34,000 was the low from yesterday in crypto on Bitcoin, and we're only back to 35.5. So it certainly isn't a big bounce at this point. We will continue to watch how things develop here. A couple things to go over. Number one, S&P 500. This is the Qs chart. You can see the Qs are into support or very close to support. So you have this pivot low, this gap fill. We filled the gap on Friday. The pivot low is still a potential, hit play. So we'll keep an eye on that. The spiders are close to support as well. So again, I wouldn't say the spiders are at support just yet. You have a gap fill right here. That's probably what you need to touch, and that is at the 435 and a quarter level. So it's only about $1 or $2 lower than where we closed on Friday. It's not very far, but again, that's definitely something to keep an eye on here. Okay? All right, so we'll continue to watch how the futures react here so far this evening. Again, everyone's sitting on pins and needles. Notice how, again, for those of you watching the recording, you can't see, but look at how Bitcoin's starting to uptick a little bit here. And again, I'm noticing the futures are upticking a little bit. So again, if the futures don't collapse in the overnight, I think cryptocurrency could have a big bounce back here. It's a big if, but again, look at the bounce on Bitcoin starting here just on this candle for those of you watching live. Okay, so again, we'll continue to follow that and see how it goes. I want to keep an eye on China in the overnight, the Hong Kong markets. They have been very strong. We've seen China stocks perform relatively well compared to their U.S. counterparts, although, again, Friday did see some decent selling in pretty much everything. Even the Chinese stocks took a hit on Friday with the massive sell pressure. So many stocks, you guys saw I was on a massive buying spree on Friday. I will do more buying tomorrow if we dip. This market, again, especially for key stocks, has major support. So whether it's SE, which is just into an absolutely remarkable, dip level here. And again, take a look at this, guys, right here. Major gap right there, major support right here. Tons of support there. If we go lower, you have even more support right here. Lots of levels down here. Stock is extremely, extremely oversold. If you look at some of the RSIs, and again, I'm not a huge RSI person, but it's fun to look at every once in a while. I mean, some of these RSIs, like SE's at $24.80 or $24.85. Even the S&P 500 is below the threshold where that signals oversold at 26. That is insanely, for the S&P, that is a big deal. The NASDAQ is around 2660 as well. So RSI is also signaling oversold. Take a look at a stock like SQ. Look at Square is just where it's technically blocked now. But look at that drop. Falling off a cliff. Amazing. DKNG is another one here that's had a remarkable collapse. We're now trading at basically, and this is why I like DKNG, guys. Look at this pivot high. This was prior to COVID, the high prior to COVID, and you're basically back there. I mean, that's a huge level. I mean, think about the legalization of gaming and online gambling that's occurred even just in the last couple years, and the likelihood that it's going to be legalized in other states, and you're getting it at the pre-COVID levels. Remarkable, folks. So, again, does this guarantee a bounce here? No, nothing's guaranteed. We know that. But is it a likely high probability chance that we're very close, either a late Monday or Tuesday bounce? Yes, I do think we are. And as such, I am continuing to buy. You guys saw I covered a lot of shorts on Friday, a lot of shorts late last week, as I am anticipating a bounce in this market. All right, so that's where we stand at this point, folks. I'm going to start taking some questions, but again, you can tell I am pumped up. The volatility has been insanely profitable for us. This is where we strive and thrive. Whether you're a day trader, a swing trader, doesn't matter. We thrive and thrive in this environment when there's volatility. Okay? All right, Anthony's saying, where are support levels on MC for a swing trade? Let's take a look here. See what we got on MC. Let's see here. So... yeah, so, I mean, MC, it's had a decent-sized fall. I mean, not as big as some of these other stocks. There's no doubt about that. But it is looking like you're getting close to some support levels here. Let me just zoom out. So I'm thinking that this area right here, you're very close. Again, look at this high, this high, this high, this high. You kind of cut through it right there. So you look at how close you are. So that's good support there. If you break that, then you have this secondary support. So again, it's not as oversold as I like for swing trades in this environment. You can see it's broken down, but it's not a massive breakdown. But nonetheless, you should get some sort of technical bounce on this here. Jonathan saying, crazy action lately. Love the insight you've been providing and been following your lead, accumulating beaten down names with small positions. I was wondering why you don't seem to be use the stop losses, even though you post them. Yeah, just basically because in this environment, you can't do it. You can't do it. I mean, again, when you see charts like this, when you get bounces of 20 to 30% in a matter of days, you have to kind of just, basically I post them because people they want to know something's there. But in general, you always use confirmation. That's number one, Jonathan, which that's the most important thing. So a lot of times stops will get pierced, but they won't confirm. And so make sure you understand that, Jonathan. I think that's the most important there. Very, very important to understand, all right? And ultimately, you look at the track record, the way I handle it, especially with using confirmation for stops, is of the utmost performance benefit to us based on the money that we're just making hand over fist in this market in the past year. It has been remarkable. And even stocks like Crocs. I mean, look at Crocs, right? So we just closed out Crocs last week. I was down on this significantly, but the chart was an obvious major bubble chart. So, when you have the knowledge that I have from 20 plus years, and you've been through the dot-com bubble, you've been through the 2007 bubble in real estate and the financial collapse, you start to see these things in the charts. And those things, the worst thing you want to do is stop out of something just before it collapses. And I'd be looking back and be pissed at myself if I had stopped out of Crocs when we ended up making 8% on it, or almost 9% very easily when the collapse came in. Look at SE, right? Another great example here, folks. By the way, I covered this way long ago for a profit, right? But look at the fall on that when the bubble collapses. I knew the bubble was coming, folks. I warned you guys about it a million times over in daily videos over the last year, saying that this is unsustainable, this is a bubble, it's going to collapse, and we have seen it now epically in many of these names. All right, and again, now the profits are just, we were making money before. Now we're just making money hand over fist even more. All right, Paresh saying, you're awesome. Thank you, Paresh. Long docu, is it time to slowly build a position? Let's take a look. And by the way, nice little move on Bitcoin here. S&P futures up about 7 points. Not a big move, and again, doesn't really tell us much, but look at how Bitcoin's responding as the S&P is finding some footing here, at least initially. Yeah, pretty remarkable rollover on Docu here. Docu's a little crazier here because, again, they had really poor earnings. The stock got smoked here. I don't know if it gets down here in a straight line, but this would be a big level here. The level is 92.5. So in the very least, I'd wait for a $100 even number pierce, and then the 92.5 would be the real optimal technical level for a swing trade. Okay? Graham saying the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ have recently pulled back 7.3%, 8.8%, and 13.9%. Do you think this will lead to your prediction of a 20% correction now, or will this larger correction occur later this year? So I don't expect a straight shot down, Graham. So, yes, I think we're going to see the S. And by the way, when I say the 20% correction, chances are the NASDAQ's going to be at like 25, maybe 30. But I'm talking about the S&P, which is down, what is it down right now? 8.8%. So I think this is the beginning of that bigger corrective move to at least a 20% correction in the S&P. But I really want us to understand as traders, as swing traders, it's not going to go straight down there. Like I'm actually positioning myself for a big bounce coming up. If I thought it was going to go straight down to 20% drop, I wouldn't obviously be buying here, right? So ultimately, just understand that is that you're going to get these rip your face off rallies. In bear markets, you get massive rallies in the market, big pops in stocks. We already saw it previously a few weeks ago when we had some of the beaten down techs and they bounced. You're going to get another such move like that where a lot of these beaten down techs like SE or NET, Cloudflare, they will bounce 20 to 25% in a matter of a couple days, which is humongous bounces. Again, this is a situation where you can be out of the money 10% on one of these names, and it's as if you're out of the money in a normal market like 3%. I mean, it's like that environment because of the volatility, which is awesome. It gives us so much more leniency, but it also is a reminder that there's a reason when I pick up 1% portfolio position, I'm doing that, right? It's because I need to be able to add another 1%. Then I need to add another 2% potentially to bring it to 4%. You have to have that ability to maneuver because the swings are so wild. And it also means that when you get the bounces and you've accumulated more position, you make even more money. So good stuff. And again, good question. David saying, thank you so much for your teachings. As a young person who yearns for financial independence, what are your teachings me? What you are teaching me is changing my entire course of my life. What do you think about 10-cent music? Yeah, thank you so much, David. And really, that's the underlying pride of why I still do what I do is the aspect where I do realize that it's turning the light bulb on above so many people's heads in terms of understanding the intricacies of charts. So there's so many investors out there that have not even ever looked at a chart and understood a trend line or anything like that. And it really is game changing when you start to do it. So I'm very happy that you're on point with that and you're learning a lot. Taking a look at 10-cent music, let's take a look at TME. So again, this is kind of an interesting one, right? It looks like a little bit of a bottom. I didn't like Friday's price action, but then again, the markets were getting smoked. So let's see. It was making a bull flag prior to Friday. Let's see if it can recover the drop on Friday and kind of reestablish that bullish consolidation. And if so, you have a good chance of moving up substantially on it. I still have it priced in at the very least to go back to this level here, which is around $9 to $10. And I really think at some point, especially that things in China seem to be calming down, especially ahead of the Olympics. My guess is these stocks have much more upside. By the way, great move in Bitcoin here. Bitcoin, just since we started this broadcast, almost up $1,000 on Bitcoin. What a move here. And again, futures aren't up a lot. They're only up 6.5 points on the S&P 500 futures. But it's more important that they're not crashing. That's what, when crypto crashed Friday into Saturday, it was the worry that the stock market was going to get crushed. And now you're seeing the relief, short squeeze or buying frenzy going on in crypto as the futures are opening. Very cool to see. Very, very cool. Stefan saying, is the Bitcoin head and shoulders still in play? Yes, it is. Still absolutely in play. Definitely is. Okay, and I think I showed that on the video last week with the Bitcoin chart. I can show it again maybe tomorrow's video or so since I go over the Bitcoin chart, pretty much every video. Okay. Abby saying a few months ago, the Russell broke out to the upside of a long-lasting channel only to eventually fall back and turn that into a bull trap. Likewise, do you think that the current breakdown of the NASDAQ S&P from the long-lasting channel can be a fake out, or do you think it's headed lower? I'm a believer in it. Like if you look at the S&P or the NASDAQ, and we can throw up the spiders here. Let me remove the moving averages so it's just a little cleaner chart here for us. But basically, you can see the channel. This was an uptrend we were in, and if we were just below by one candle and hadn't confirmed it, I would then say, okay, well, maybe it's a fake out, right? But now you've had multiple down moves. You confirmed it the next day. Then you continued lower. Then you continued lower. At this point, too much technical damage has been done, in my opinion. It's not just like it pierced by a day or so. This is major technical damage. So I'm in the camp that honestly this is probably the best shot that the market could have put in a multi-year high that I have seen. And it makes a lot of sense, right? You have inflation high, so the Fed can't print as much money. Even if the economy weakens, what are they really going to do? How much can they print? Maybe they print a little bit, but can they ever go gangbusters like they did for COVID again with inflation where it is? I don't think they can. I think they're in a real pickle here where, they're tightening by tapering. We're going to hear from them later this week. and you're in a position where they can't, I mean, even the tightening is going to slow the economy. It's going to make unemployment go up. And then they're going to say, okay, well, we're going to have to stop tightening now. So we're going to have to stop raising interest rates or whatever part they're at. But really, can they go back and start printing money? I don't know. Not if inflation's even 5%. I don't know, about them doing that. So again, things have fundamentally changed now. There's a major change that has gone on, which has been inflation has finally surged. And that's something to keep an eye on. By the way, S&P 500 now up 14 points. Bitcoin again screeching higher so far. Very nice move. Again, it could be totally different tomorrow. We'll have to watch and see, as obviously things can change on a dime, but certainly interesting to see here. John saying, if AMD drops, will you cover short and buy or just buy? So if it drops, will you cover short and buy? Well, I'm not short right now, but yes, I would buy at the right level, right? So if we take a look at AMD here, AMD's next support is right down here. So yes, I would be a buyer here for a bounce. Like let's say it got there early this week. Yeah, I would. Oh, you're looking at NVIDIA. Okay, yeah, I am short NVIDIA. So yes, I am. And the answer is yes, I do have a level. So NVIDIA actually hit major support right here. If it flushes tomorrow one more time, yes, I will probably cover my short and flip it to a long. I think we're going to bounce off this level and then eventually go lower. So I'm content still holding the short, as I think you're going sub 200 on NVIDIA. But yes, absolutely, if we flush tomorrow and got even more oversold short term, I would flip the switch on that. Yes. All right. Let's see. Stefan saying, would you like to reshort Tesla on a bounce? How should it be played? Yeah, so I mean, Tesla, again, right now futures are up. We don't know where they'll be tomorrow, but Tesla has major support right down here, and then eventually it's going to break this upsloping trend line. I want to take away this chart here. In fact, let's just even remove this line here. This is the line that you're looking for Tesla to break. All right. It will break this probably after this next bounce in the market, but then once it breaks that one, it's going to have, you'll have a little support right here, and then eventually it's going all the way down here. So for me, I've been preaching the short trade on Tesla for a long time, as you guys know. I'm still in that camp. The valuation for them as a company is absolutely insane, especially in a rising rate environment. And again, even though I do think you're getting close to a bounce on it here, I still think it's going much, much lower. I honestly have a hard time, even at $500 a share, I have a hard time figuring out the valuation makes sense on Tesla. All right. Again, as a car company, yes. I mean, all right, yeah, they have the energy side of things, but I mean, really, what's an energy company worth? I mean, really, in the olden days, at least, energy companies didn't trade at a high PE. You have the artificial intelligence and the kind of the driving stuff, the unassisted driving. I mean, yeah, there's some value there for sure. But again, time will tell. Time will tell. All I know is that generally the charts tell the truth, and the charts have been saying this is way overdone. If you looked at like the monthly chart on this, it's about the most ridiculous chart still that you've ever seen in terms of the move up. Okay? And by the way, remember, Elon Musk just unloaded $10 billion in stock. I mean, he's not dumb. He did it at the highs. It's way off the highs already. Now, granted, he did it to kind of, cover some options that he had to pay taxes on and stuff like that, but still. David saying, wondering why I've kept my Apple short but covered the Qs. Yeah, basically it's just a matter of, when you're short the Qs, you're also basically short Apple, right, David? So if you want to take a little bit off the table, you can either sell a little bit of Apple or cover a little bit of Apple and cover a little bit of the Qs, or you just cover one and keep the other. So I just decided to do that at this point. Again, doesn't really, it's not really a genius move by me or anything. It was just a risk management move to kind of say, okay, let's take the QID off the table. Let's bank that profit. You guys saw I did that with DXD, especially as we're coming into a bounce. I want to prepare for that. I do have shorts still out there in case we flush, because again, remember, I'm not 100% right. I mean, yes, I'm right more than I'm wrong, but that still leaves a fair amount that I'm wrong on. So we could still crash in this market tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow could be a crash for all I know. And I want to still have a little exposure to the short side. Now, granted, I think we're going to bounce, and the probabilities dictate that, but it could also be wrong. So I think it's all about risk management in terms of maneuvering. Okay. David saying URNM, for example. Do I like uranium? Sure. Let's take a look at that. See what we got on this one. And Bitcoin just continues to push. Beautiful bounce on Bitcoin. Love it. Yeah, that's a nice fall on URNM. In terms of support, that's a good question. There is some decent support. You did fill a little gap right here on Friday. I don't think I would buy it for a swing at least until it hits this level around $60. But yeah, I mean $60 you start getting into some major sideways chop that could be very, very good. In addition, take a look at this trend line. So I think this is the one you want to look at, David, right? So you have this pivot high and this upsloping, and look, they basically merge right here. So that would honestly be a multi-factor level to be a buyer on. AJ saying, I hope you got some rest over the weekend. Thoughts on Palantir going to 10 or below? So speaking of the rest, right? So I did get a little bit of rest, but I'll be honest with you guys. I was up at Saturday morning at 3 in the morning, 3 a.m. Eastern time. I was up because crypto was crashing, and I was up buying crypto at that point. So far, so good, obviously, with the bounce. But yeah, I mean, now that I'm running the crypto verified investing crypto, it's like 24/7, 365. It's pretty nuts. Now, granted, there's a lot of periods where crypto's quiet, but with this market, it has been all hands on deck. And shout out to my wife and for handling so much of the kids and everything like that, because I have just been studying charts, analyzing charts left and right. Focusing on the markets, high intensity, and it's quite something for sure. In terms of Palantir, let's take a look at PLTR here. Yeah, I mean, Palantir hit support. So you guys saw I picked that up on Friday. I think you get a bounce here. You can see this level. It did pierce this level, but again, likely we'll see a bounce here. And so far, so good on that front. We'll continue to watch it. But do I think eventually it goes below 10? Yeah, I do. I mean, if I'm pricing in a 20% S&P correction, 25 to 30% NASDAQ correction, yeah, I do think you end up there. Absolutely. By the way, S&P futures up about 21 points, which still in the scheme of the drop on Friday is not that big, but it is a positive. The world is not ending with a futures crash here in the Sunday night like I think a lot of crypto traders were worried about. And again, it speaks to why crypto has just taken off here. Yeah. All said and done there. Pretty cool stuff. All right, wow. Next question from Jennifer saying, would you recommend BITO for the Bitcoin play for those that don't have Coinbase? Yes and no. So the problem with BITO is that you can only trade it really during market hours, right? So for instance, I was buying Saturday morning at 3 in the morning Bitcoin. I bought more later on Saturday in Bitcoin. I bought Solana. I bought Ethereum. I was like fishing and like fish in a barrel, right? Shooting like fish in a barrel, just accumulating small positions in these various cryptos. With BITO, there's not a whole lot you can do, right? You just have to wait till Monday morning. So, at this stage, if you pull back to 35,000 tomorrow, yeah, I think it's okay. Maybe you'll be below 35,000 by tomorrow morning. But if you're already at 36.5 or 37, then I wouldn't chase it at that point. There's too much risk in it. And I think, you have to remember that per the Bitcoin chart, your support was 40,000, right? That's what we broke. We crashed down to 34,000. So if you bounce back up, support becomes resistance. So now 40,000 is resistance. Now it might get through there, but you don't know that. So the tricky thing is saying, okay, well, if let's say it opens tomorrow at 37.5, now you only got $2,500 of upside left in Bitcoin. There's a lot of risk of holding BITO with only $2,500 before your first resistance. So I think you have to be a little careful there in that respect, just depending on where it is. It's one of the tricky things when you have crypto trading 24/7. It's much better, honestly, to have a crypto account where you actually can get in and out. I mean, think about it. If you bought BITO on Friday before the close and Bitcoin crashes over the weekend and like let's say it dropped 1,000 and you really wanted to get out but you couldn't because you were in BITO and then it drops another 5,000. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. So again, when you have the option to actually buy spot, meaning cryptocurrency itself, I would always recommend going that avenue because you're handicapping yourself. You're putting handcuffs on yourself if you trade something like an ETF. Now, if it's an ETF that's not based on the futures, like let's say they do come out, and last thing I'll say on this because I don't want to waste too much time, but if it's an ETF based on the actual spot price, then if you're a long-term holder, then it makes sense, right? Then you just tuck it away. With BITO, it's based on the futures, and with contract rollover, you're always going to lose value there. So I would never recommend holding BITO for like a year or even 6 months is kind of tricky. A couple months, sure. Long term, not so much. Okay. Um, G wondering about a ad level on RCON. So RCON popped up on my radar last week. There was a day where it traded a fair amount of volume, and I liked seeing that. This chart, I actually really like this. All right, now what's gonna so the Chinese stocks have started to perk up. If the Chinese stocks continue to get very very hot, the big ones like Alibaba continues up, Baidu continues up, and so forth. Eventually, the small caps like RCON will catch fire. Something like RCON, when it catches fire in a day or two, it probably runs back to like $2.50. Like this would be a big resistance. So, the small caps only wake up when the large ones run. So money flows to the best of breed first, which is like an Alibaba or a Baidu or a Tencent. But eventually money starts looking for the smaller ones that have been left behind. And that's where something like RCON can have a major move. So again, it's going to be, it's a Chinese name. You got to respect that. So it's going to kind of follow those. But if you get big moves, eventually RCON will follow suit and have a monster move. And when it does, it's going to be like, 30, 40% in a day type move. Absolutely. And probably like 100% over the course of a few days. All right. Stefan saying, thanks for last week. As markets went down into your cycle date, do you think your cycle is now up? If so, what do you need to look for? So really, we started to have those big collapse days when the cycle hit, right? I mean, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were the big down days. So my guess is the bounce that we're going to see is just an intra-cycle bounce. And I personally think that the intra-cycle bounce is still going to lead to further downside. Do I think we could bounce 3, 4, 5%? Yeah, I do. I really think that the bounce could be big, especially depending on what the Fed says on Wednesday. But, my guess is it's still down. But again, let's just let the charts, I guess, tell us that's the best thing, to do. Okay. Paul saying, oh, hey, boss, hope you're doing better than Tom Brady and the Bucs. Yeah, I saw they were getting hit. It looked like they were going to lose. Yeah. For sure. I am doing better than that, at least for now, for sure. A lot better if the market gets a good bounce and these tech stocks rip, though. I'll say that much. Can we look at BRKB for maybe a swing? Sure. So that's Berkshire Hathaway. Let me see. I think it's BRK.B on my system. Yep. So good sell-off on this. I don't think I'd step up until this level. So this would be, look at that move. That's a ridiculous move up. So look at this level right here. Which is right around 300. So 300, a pierce of 300 maybe gets me interested. If it continues down, then this would be your next level here, which is around 293 or so. But yeah, if it comes into it enough, it is. I think it's still too overbought considering the rip it's had recently. Okay. Joseph saying, thank you for a great last week. What do you think would be a good level to cover a short on Alcoa? Sure, let's take a look. See what we got on here. That's a good question. The standout level for me is this former little pivot right in here, which kind of matches up with this area. That would be a very aggressive pullback, but I think that's your best case scenario. If you wanted to cover at this gap fill here or take some off the table, I think you're good to go too. But yeah, I expect, this one still probably has some downside to go. Ronak saying, as always, a pleasure to be here with you. Are you concerned with the Fed minutes next Wednesday and whether our trades in stocks may see some further dip? Not really. So again, the charts are always paramount, and this is something I learned over the course of my 20-plus years, is that, you're going to have little blips on the screen, right? You'll have the CPI numbers, you'll have this, you'll have the Federal Reserve, and I think it's the Fed meeting, it's not the minutes, which is even bigger. The Fed meeting is even bigger. But ultimately, if we were to bounce sharply Monday and Tuesday, then I might expect a pullback on Wednesday. But the charts are saying a bounce. So I think that you do either, it's either going to be a bounce pre-Fed or post-Fed. And again, for me, it's the charts are always going to be the leading signal of it versus, guessing what the Fed is going to say. And in all fairness, the Fed, knowing Jerome Powell, he's always been one that tries to soothe. He'll probably say the same stuff he always says, which is like, hey, if the economy suffers, we'll back off on our tapering and all this other stuff. The question is, how does the market take that, right? And then we'll have to see. But I would just say, again, in terms of price action, when you're as oversold as you are on the tech stocks, you have to think bounce. Even if we go a little bit lower, I just use it as an accumulation point. Okay? Kevin saying, on the Qs, what's your expected snapback level? Let me take a look at that. So the Qs again into major support here. I would say the best case would be a retrace to this upsloping trend line. So this one right here, which is right around like 370, 375, that would be a monstrous bounce back. I do think that that's a possibility. Worst case would probably be this low here, which is around 369, 370. So I mean, it's still 20 bucks. Now granted, I mean, we were down 11, 10 to $11 on Friday. So it's if we went up 10, 11 for 2 days, we'd already get there. But I do think that again, worst case is kind of 370 target. Best case would be like 375, maybe 380, whatever this upsloping trend line is at that point, which would be, by the way, a retrace to the scene of the crime if you got that channel the price to retrace to that channel. Oh, thank you, Richard. Thank you so much. Richard saying, as always, great job. Could you cover the housing market? Is it a leading indicator for the economy? Yeah, I'm not sure about a leading indicator. It probably is to some extent, but for me, I'm very bearish on the housing market. You guys know I've been talking about the housing market I've been bearish on the housing market since probably last August. I sold my house last August in Oregon before I moved to Florida, and I've been renting since. And again, the thought process is very simple, right? Higher interest rates mean people can afford less home or less price. So price usually gets driven down. I think the metrics are for every 1% up in interest rates, prices of houses drop about 10%. So right now we've already gone up substantially from the lows of not that long ago. We were at like 1.3% not that long ago on the 10-year, and we touched 1.9%. I think it was early last week. And then you also have to think about the wealth effect evaporating, right? So now you had so many people that were buying houses because they made a fortune in cryptocurrency, they made a fortune in the stock market, and they always thought the stocks were going to go up. And now you're starting to see 401ks dip. Crypto's been absolutely annihilated. I mean, Bitcoin down 50% from its highs or from the weekend, the lows of the weekend. And there's going to be a lot of people that are now saying to themselves, holy cow, I wanted to buy a house, but I can't afford it. Now that interest rates are even up, higher too. So I think the housing market, again, should have topped already. It's likely already started to come down. I think I've kind of heard that happening a little bit with there's a little bit of a slowdown in people putting houses. I think we've seen pending home sales slow down a little bit. But yeah, I would still be in the camp that as long as interest rates hover up and the stock market's going down, it's going to hurt home buying, and again, especially as pricey as homes have gotten. Randall saying, love the service. Thank you. Should we get back into UVXY? So definitely not, right? I mean, UVXY, if I'm right and the markets are going to bounce, then UVXY is going to go down. Now, at some point, if we were to, let's say, retrace to the scene of the crime on the Qs back at 375, 380, yes, then it makes sense to get back in. But again, make sure you use your technicals to do that. So make sure there's a factor, there's firm technical analysis behind it, especially with the UVXY because it is so volatile. It is so risky. Like if you're off by a couple days, you can be down 10, 15% in a flash on that. All right. Let's take a look at Micron for nerdy here. Wow, Micron dipped. Great level, though. Look at this gap fill on that it hit right here. Oh, man, that was a great level on Friday, folks. Again, there's only so much you can pick up or you want to pick up. I picked up a ton of stuff on Friday and obviously unloaded a ton of shorts. So it's you can't buy everything coming into levels. But nonetheless, look at that level. Beautiful thing right there. So again, we'll continue to watch that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Micron bounces. All right, let's see what we have here. Camille saying, thanks for your amazing work. Enjoy learning through your analysis. I hold Gazprom, OGZP. Why would you sell Russian stocks considering the uncertainty with Ukraine? Thank you, mate. That's a great question, and I'm not sure if I have access to that chart. Let me see, OGZPY. Let's see. I do. How cool is that? I didn't even know I did. I wouldn't, you know what? I wouldn't sell it. So first of all, you're at technical support right down here, right? Tons of support right down here on Gazprom. And also, I mean, I don't know, anything can happen, but in my mind, I'm trying to figure out the benefits for Putin invading Ukraine, and I'm having a hard time figuring it out. He knows he's gonna get way worse sanctions, potentially military conflict, and what, to take over Ukraine? I mean, how does that solve anything? I don't know. I could be wrong, but you wonder if he's using this as a negotiating tool. I mean, there's already sanctions on Russia. Maybe he says I'll back off all my troops, but lift these sanctions. I mean, who knows? Is there risk? Yes, of course there's risk, right? But Gazprom, obviously a monster company. I'd probably, considering the chart, I'd probably continue to hold it myself. But again, I think you have to be someone who holds it with your eyes wide open, meaning you have to say, okay, I'm willing to hold it based on the technicals, but I understand the risks involved. Absolutely. Okay. Ryan saying, are you considering more S&P market shorts? Certainly not after this pullback. I'm not. But once we bounce, yes, I will look to short again. Absolutely. Frank wondering about BZUN, which is a Chinese stock. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like this base it's putting in. I think it's got to break above this level here, but it certainly looks interesting to me, Frank. I like it. I think, again, just be aware of how many Chinese stocks you're in. I'm in a fair amount already, so I don't know if it's worth it to pick up another one versus, I've been starting to pick up other stocks like, Cloudflare and some of these other ones to diversify away from just Chinese stocks. But certainly if you're not, the chart looks very, very good to me. Okay? Ronak saying SE Square and Peloton seem to be a bit concerning, but I'm in these trades and do believe on a bounce soon enough. Yeah, so, again, the things that I'm pointing out in your message here, you say seems to be a bit concerning. So to me, that's emotion right there. That can't be, if you have that in trading, you're going to make the wrong decision at the wrong time. It's all about charts, all right? When I was buying Bitcoin at 34,000, 35,000, was it concerning? Yeah, I mean, if I let my emotion go, crypto was down 20, 25% at that point, but you got to step up at the technical levels, all right? So same thing with stocks is like you have to look at the charts, you have to go by that, and really, if you let emotion get a hold of you, you're going to make the wrong decision almost always. So now it doesn't mean you don't play it smart. I mean, small positions, make sure you have the ability to add. There are ways that you can protect yourself to just in case the world does end or the markets do crash, right? But at the same time, you have to keep that emotion out of it. Jansen saying, love your passion and energy. It looks like so many stocks are getting smashed. Why aren't you more open to short positions? So I had a ton of shorts, Jansen. We made a ton of money on shorts, but if I'm expecting a bounce, why would I want to be shorting more now, right? I mean, think about it logically. Now the average person, you're right. The average person's probably like, oh my God, markets are down. I got to go short. Smart traders like myself that are reading charts, we're going the inverse to the crowd. So when other people are like, oh my God, the sky's falling, things are crashing, I got to short, I'm like, okay, these idiots are shorting, and we're already down X amount of percent in a straight line, and charts are into support. I'm buying. Hell yeah, So again, keep that in mind. You almost have to, in the beginning as an early investor, you almost have to go the opposite of what you want to do. When you want to buy, short. When you want to short, buy. And you'll honestly be right more than not until you learn the charts, until you get your emotion underneath your belly, until you get, full of that. Okay? Felix saying, great job guiding us. Thank you. What do you see in the SoFi chart? So SoFi had a deal last week. I was actually going to buy it at a break of $12 last week, and it didn't quite break. I think it got to like $12.06 and then had a monster move. I think they got a bank charter or some approval for a bank. So that's cool. The chart right now I don't see much on. It's too hard to read. It's too sloppy for me. I like charts that are straight down or straight up versus this is a lot of, down and then it was up a lot and then it pulled back on Friday. If you really wanted to play it, you'd look for the gap fill at 12 to be filled and then maybe give it a shot there. But I don't have much in that respect. Okay. Jackie saying, or Jack saying, could you take a look at BBIG for me? Thanks. Sure. Absolutely. Let's take a look at this. This is a small stock, by the way. BBIG had a big run up, had a big pullback here. Now, this one's one that has kind of like been caught up in the hype. So I'd be very careful. In fact, I'm not really interested in it. To me, this is almost a worthless company. I think I was reading that the market cap was close to $1 billion and they do very little sales. So just be a little careful there. It's one that you're going to see probably pumped on a lot of message boards. That's usually a good signal to stay away from it. I think there's, again, considering how oversold quality stocks are, like even another one that I picked up, CPNG, which is Coupang. This is like the Amazon of the Koreas, right? I mean, look at that drop. I mean, these are up and coming major players in the world, and they're trading at discounted levels that at least for a bounce makes sense. Again, I still ultimately think they go lower down the line, but at least for now, it makes more sense than speculating on whether or not, BBIG gets another pump before its next dump. Simona wondering about DNN. Let's take a look at DNN. Denison Mines here. Stock is basically kissing some support right here. You can see that, so that doesn't look too bad. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's not a bad one at this point. Some decent support there. I'm going to be watching, speaking of mining, and this is not obviously gold, but I certainly will be watching very closely gold this week and seeing how it goes. VJ saying great profit since start of 2022. Last week was full of action since I joined Verified Investing in 2021. China has been beaten down throughout the 2021. How much more upside do we expect? So I'm still full out bullish on China, folks. I just was reading something that is calling for more loosening policy in China, especially considering what's going on with their real estate sector. That's going to be very bullish for them. They're going to come out at some point of this kind of lockdown COVID stretch as well. So yeah, I mean, to me, when you see Alibaba down from 300 and change to, got as low as almost $100, there's nothing in my book that says that can't go back to $200. And that's kind of what my 2022 target is. And I think I said this already, but I think gold is the best performer between the stock market, Bitcoin, and gold. And in the U.S. markets, the foreign stocks are going to do best. So you're talking South America, maybe. Definitely China is up there. The Korea, South Korea type stocks, Taiwan, Singapore. Those names I think perform the best this year versus U.S. equities. Okay. Jonathan saying after Netflix huge collapse Friday, RSI is 11. Is that a good area for a swing long? Yeah. I mean, we day traded on Friday. We were in around 383, I think, and we ended up making quite a bit of money. It actually went over $400. So it didn't put in a bottoming tail. I don't think I would chase it based on the bounce just yet. But I mean, this was a huge level, and this was the day trading level that we bought. Look at that, this major support. I would see if it pulls back. If it pulls back to like 385, yeah, I'd be a buyer of it. Yeah, I would. As a swing trade, I like it just for a bounce. I think it got way overdone. I think it got caught up in the negativity of the sell-off in the markets, which just makes people panic and sell and ask questions later. And I think ultimately, yeah, you'll see a snapback for sure, or at least I would guess you would. Okay. Natasha saying BHC. Let's take a look at BHC, see what we got there. Yeah, I don't see much on this. Maybe bullish consolidation. I kind of like the chart over the longer term here. This looks like a bull flag, in spirit of bull flag. So I think I like it on the longer side. It doesn't fit the mold of being extremely oversold right now. It just kind of has a longer term bullish pattern. So it's kind of, I would look at this and I would say, okay, this is probably one of the safer stocks to be in this environment that we're in. It probably does okay. And if it drops, it's not going to drop massively. So yeah, I think the chart overall is telling you longer term it's going up. I just, again, it's not like an immediate buy now, it's going to bounce 10 or 20% next week type play. Okay. Let me take a look. Pat saying, I added up all our positions, and we have 124% in our portfolio. I hope we get a bounce soon, as I don't want much more to buy any lower dips. Yeah, I mean, you're using leverage. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using your margin. I've made a lot of money by using it. We're only a little bit into margin at a little 24%. But, Pat, yeah, I mean, you got to decide for yourself. Do you want to play ball with the big boys, or do you want to, it's totally up to you. You can see how much you want to commit. You can always do half or 3/4 of what I do, which will keep you less than overall investment. But I'll say this for folks is that when I see massive opportunity where I can make big money, I'm not going to be like, oh, I just don't want to commit. Like if someone says to you, you have 80% chance of making money on all these plays, do you want to use $1 or do you want to use $10? I mean, I'm going to go $10 every time when the opportunity is this good. Doesn't mean there's no risk, but with odds that high, I got to go with it, But again, each person can make that decision for themselves. I show you guys approximately what I have invested, and you guys can make that determination if you want to do it, or you can do a percentage of it. That's fine as well. Okay. John wondering about a next ad level on NET. Let's see what we got here. So NET hit major support here. It pierced this line already. It's right into here. If it dropped more, I think you probably would start to look to add at the 65 to 66 range right down here. This would be another huge level, but I would be utterly shocked if it doesn't get a bounce off this area. I mean, look at the consolidation base here and look at price on Friday right into that level. All right. By the way, S&P futures up 20 points right now, so nice little move on those. So far, so good on that. John saying, should I wait for a pullback in Cardano? You just said more NASDAQ pullback until Tuesday. No, I said there's a possibility, right? I mean, you could always gap down tomorrow because of fear. Right now, futures are up. Doesn't mean by tomorrow morning we won't be down, but the bounce is around the corner, right? Whether it's Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, I honestly, I'm not that good to know exactly to the exact day necessarily always. In terms of Cardano, which is a crypto, I was buying around $1 or so. It's back to, I think, $1 and change at this point. What's it trading at? Let's take a look. I haven't even looked at Cardano here. So it looks like Cardano is trading around actually almost $1.13. So, I don't know if I'd suggest buying here at $1.12, $1.13, considering it got as low as 93 cents over the weekend. I think you kind of might have missed the boat there. I mean, maybe you're still good because I do think it goes to at least $1.25, $1.30. But, definitely you buy on fear. Once a big bounce comes in, it's you don't want to chase at that point, essentially. Okay? All right. Let's see what else here. I see some questions about the Fed. I think the Fed, like I said earlier, guys, I kind of went over that. I think the Fed's going to stay the course in terms of tapering, but I think they're going to use very soothing words about coming to the economy's rescue if they need to. And the question is, how does the market react to that? It sounds dovish, but the market obviously has a mind of its own. It'll interpret it accordingly, and we'll just trade it accordingly as well. Okay? Alrighty, here it's obviously a long broadcast. I'm doing it longer a little bit on purpose here, but we are coming to the end here. Daniel saying, thank you for your guidance through the crazy week. I'm in the money on a short on Pfizer. Is it worth taking a profit on it? Let's take a look at Pfizer here. Yeah, I mean, you did fill a gap here on Friday on Pfizer. I mean, there's maybe a tiny more downside to this level right here. But again, if you're in the money decently, at least take half off the table, protect yourself, and then you can always let the second half run if you want, okay? Raph wondering about, can I give my opinion on U.S. Steel? Let's see what we got on that. You're asking for 3 to 5 years out. I mean, honestly, my opinion is not worth a whole lot for 3 to 5 years out. I'd be shocked if we haven't had an epic collapse in the stock market in 3 to 5 years of like 75%. So the question is, where is U.S. Steel at that point? Maybe it's at like $5. Maybe it's out of business. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I can't. I don't know. My most accurate predictions are based on current charts with the next weeks to months predictions. I mean, the only thing I really do long-term projections on are like Bitcoin and gold because I just don't think the Federal Reserve can ever stop printing money fully. And so the dilutive nature of printing more dollars is going to make assets like gold go up. With steel, yes, the price should go up, but the problem is if the economy's in the trash, what's the demand there? And again, it's hard to know for sure. All right. Duke saying, how do you feel about the banking sector, and would you look at SBNY? Sure. So, banking sector is probably still fine. It's had a great pullback. SBNY here has had a big pullback. Still overbought to me. I think I wouldn't touch SBNY at the very least until it hits this upsloping trend line. Notice how you can connect all these lows. If price gets there on a straight shot, then I think you get a good bounce. But again, at this stage, it's had a good pullback, just not enough for me to jump in on. Marcus wondering about my views on CGC. Yeah, so I continue to hold CGC, but remember the thesis for CGC, right? The thesis for CGC is that at some point as we get closer to the midterms, both sides of the aisle probably talk about legalization on marijuana at the federal level. When that happens, you're going to see CGC go up 100 to 200%. That's really your play here. I would just continue to slowly accumulate on this weakness in as the market crashes and so forth and comes back in, and just kind of prepare for that. The one thing I remind myself on the marijuana plays is that the government is never getting out of debt at this point, right? Because, they can't raise taxes too much. It'll crush the economy, and then unemployment skyrockets, and then what's the Fed going to do, and so forth. Then they got to, the government has to do more stimulus bills. So they have to figure out ways to raise revenue if they want to spend more money, which they inevitably do, which is the obvious one is legalize marijuana. Like you bring in probably 10, 20, I don't know how many billions, 50 billion, $100 billion a year, whatever it is in terms of tax revenue. So it's going to get legalized. It's a matter of, is it, next year in 2023? Is it 2024, 2025? When is it? And that'll be the interesting thing about it. But all you need is chatter about it to get these things going. And then you'll see these things again, double, triple in value. And that's really your game plan here. I mean, these stocks, for the most part, are not doing great. Now, I think they're oversold. If you look at RSIs and stuff, ridiculously oversold. So they're due for a technical bounce. But the big play where you make a lot of money on them is when you get that chatter about legalization. No doubt about that. Or buyout. I mean, at some point, you got to think CGC is cheap enough where Constellation Brands buys the other portion, the other 60% of the company. All right, guys, I got to get going here. I got to rejuvenate. I got to rest. Have a wonderful night. As always, a pleasure to be with you guys on Sunday night, especially in this wild market action. S&P futures remain nicely in the positive. S&P futures right now are trading up about 19 points. Dow up about 100. Oil's up about $1 on the overnight. Gold down $1.30, which is basically flat, and same thing with silver. So let's see where we are tomorrow morning. That's going to be what matters. Right into the open. Where are the markets? Take care, guys.